Hey everyone, welcome back. This is the Clarity Through Chaos YouTube channel. I'm your host, Fiona Hardwick, and joining me today is one of my best friends, Alessandra. We are talking today all about her journey to losing over 100 pounds. It's a really great conversation, and I'm so looking forward to having you guys listen. If you're new here, this channel is all about helping you transform your relationship with yourself. If that sounds like fun to you, make sure to hit subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and comment on the video below.
Everyone's self-conscious.
Newsflash.
Everyone, because you love to eat. And I think like with you and I, like we love to
All right. Hi, Sandra.
Hi.
Alessandra. I'm sorry. I call you Sandra, but you prefer Alessandra.
I do prefer Alessandra, yes. Especially when I first meet someone, but that's because you've been around my family so much.
Yeah, that
But
I
yeah,
basically am your family.
of course.
Well, I'm so excited to have you on today. And the topic that we're discussing today is weight loss. And not just simply weight loss, but kind of the emotional and mental, I guess, process that goes along with losing weight. And you and I had such a good discussion last week when we were together that I was like, oh, I think this needs to be broadcast. I think we need to like talk on the experience. So, what I want to kind of start off with, and obviously share only what you're comfortable with, but you've been going through a process of losing weight, and I kind of want to dive into that. So, if you're comfortable, how much weight have you lost kind of overall?
Overall, right now, it's at, I would say, definitely 100.
Wow.
Um, my last recorded weight at the doctor was not my actual weight because I weighed more than that one.
Mm.
But yeah, it's around 100. It could be more, but I definitely know it's 100.
Well, first of all,
Which
bravo.
is
Like,
huge.
that's huge. That's
Yeah,
huge. And I kind of want to like rewind the clock a little bit and just talk about your weight from like, the beginning, from when you can
okay,
remember. Has weight always kind of been at the forefront of your reality, or like what's that journey for you kind of look like?
definitely. The earliest I can remember is when I was young, and I noticed that I was bigger than the other girls.
Mm,
Even when I was in dance class, because I used to do dancing, and so like even when I was in dance class, I was still a little bit more heavier than the other girls. So that kind of took a toll on me because you wear like those dance outfits, and my mom had to like make my she had to make some of my costumes. And like I even remember there was like we did Lion King one time. Oh no, not Lion King, Disney. And
mm.
there was like a Jasmine costume I had to wear, right, to show my like my midriff or like, and I was
Yeah,
just
your
like,
belly.
oh no. So yeah, so it definitely started when I was younger. I've always from the earliest I can remember, I've always been the one that's overweight.
Mm,
So I kind of just grew up with that mentality of like thinking that that's what the first thing anyone sees when they see me. Like,
mm.
forget about my name, forget about who I am or anything like that. Like, it always was how I look. And so, like, I always tried to compete with like other styles of what I could do, like, whether it was like clothing or jewelry or my hair. Like, I remember in fifth grade, I was blow drying my own hair,
Right.
like full out, because I just needed to do something to make me feel like, okay, I'm not just the fat girl. And then, of course, when you get older, and then in high school, it's like even more torture because everybody has like a boyfriend and girlfriend. You just like, you want to live that high school, I guess you could say, dream or whatever. I don't know what they would call it, but um as I got older, it never really took too much of a toll on me as it did as a child, because at that point, like when I was in my young 20s, I started learning who I was as a person
Mm,
and what really mattered to me. And so my relationship with my body was not something that mattered to me. It
Interesting.
always seemed like it would matter to other people more
Mm,
than to me. I never really understood it because, like, for me, it was more so I don't really care how I look. Like, I'm not interested in trying to find someone or trying to fit in. And even with working in the beauty industry, that was even hard because
yeah,
I'm working in the beauty industry, and in society's view, people who are overweight are not beautiful.
right.
So that was another thing. And then, and I was being told, like, you won't be successful because you're overweight,
Wow.
like to my face.
Wow.
And yeah. So then by the time I got to a few years ago, when I really started to take the journey of losing weight, I came to the realization that it dealt more with, for me especially, it dealt more with the mental and emotional side of it
Mm,
versus the physical. And I realized that I was always trying to lose weight for someone else and not for myself.
wow. You're just
Yes.
dropping some nuggets today. We're not even 15 minutes in. I'm already
Oh, sorry. I
like,
just like I was like, okay, should I just like go through this really quickly, like my story?
don't
Like, there's a
apologize. I
lot.
love it. It is a lot. It
It
is
is
a
a lot.
lot.
Like
And I
it's kind
met
of
you, like we met, how old were we?
I
19?
was you had just no,
We
I
were in
was
high school.
18, you
I
were
was 18.
17.
Yeah, 17.
But you had just turned 18.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
we've, known each other and pretty much have been best friends since we met. But that's so interesting what you said that you're always trying to lose weight for other people.
Hmm.
And every time you try to lose weight, what would happen?
Um,
Like, was it
well,
successful?
so
Were you
I'll
able
give
to
you,
lose the weight?
oh yeah. And I think I got annoyed with the process because anytime, like, I never really tried when I was in my teens.
Yeah.
Um, when I was in my 20s, I did. Like when I moved to Florida, I joined Shape Fitness, which is like an all women's
Hmm.
gym because I didn't want men looking at me. Like I was very, very extremely self conscious.
Of course. Yeah.
So I started going to the gym. I had a trainer who was helping me. Like she told me what I should do. And then if I ever needed her again, I could go to her. And I was doing Weight Watchers.
Yeah.
So like that was like the first time I think I really recognized during my process of thinking of like of why haven't I been able to lose weight? And then when I started thinking about all those processes, like that was my first time I actually was like, okay, like I created a MySpace. Like Girl Gone Lean was my MySpace. I had
Oh,
oh
okay.
yeah, like I was like really into like losing weight. And then I started losing weight and I was getting like a lot of recognition for it.
Mm,
And it was in a way of like
you're getting attention. Different
I was
type of
getting
attention.
attention. I was getting different. I was getting the attention that I thought I deserved and should have received when I was not losing weight or
Right.
showing that it was why am I now getting recognition for how I look because I'm losing weight or I'm working on my body? Like
Mm,
what is the purpose of needing to point that out?
right.
If that makes any sense. Um, so I stopped.
Mm.
I think it just subconsciously would happen because I've it's been more than once that I've had that. And then
What do you think it was? Like, what do you think your subconscious was like kind of do you think it was a way to protect yourself? Or like why do you think you had that reaction of like, okay, put the brakes on?
I don't think I was ready to really excuse me. I don't think I was ready to really learn who I was
Mm,
or take an opportunity to it, fear, fear. Anything that's what it all comes down to is fear.
yeah,
Okay. Prior to me, not when I was a kid, like it wasn't my responsibility for me to lose weight.
right.
And I don't care who wants to disagree with me. And I've talked to my both of my parents about it, and and we've had deep conversations because like there's like for example, um when we moved from one house to another, it was like a huge shift in our family. We moved out of state and everything, and for months I didn't have a bedroom. My bedroom was the dining room, and I
Mhm.
had curtains blocking the doorways, and I was right next to the kitchen. And
Right.
everyone knew I was overweight, and I'm pretty sure they knew I was an emotional eater.
Right.
But like that's like one thing, like they kind of got lost into other things, and like I'm not saying everything is their fault, but I
Wouldn't
what
that be easy?
what I'm trying to say is like at some point, like there has to be accountability for where the habits began.
Mm,
And so now I was put out into the world with having to create new habits and not having anything to like really go off of, because a lot of the times when I would go to try to lose weight and like go to like these groups like Weight Watchers and Atkins, and I've done the Whole 30 and all these different
every
things,
diet under the
paleo,
sun.
everything.
Yeah.
And it's just like a lot of things were not working. um the people who I would talk to about it, they didn't really, they would just try to have you do alternative diets.
Mm,
And so I've been able to pick up like all these different tips throughout my like journey with all these things, but at the end of the day, like they still were not working for me.
right.
And then I was like, why? I
Yeah.
think it's important to ask why.
Right.
But yeah, to go back to your question, it was fear. Fear. I think fear a lot. I think I was also afraid to get attention.
Well, I was just that was gonna be my next question was like, was there fear around being seen, right? Because you had this persona, right? You had this Alessandra is XYZ, you know what I mean? And now that XYZ is changing,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. And it's just like I think about it now, and like one of the things I used to say is like, wow, like in 10 years, imagine what you'll look like. It's always, what are you going to look like? What are we going to look like?
Right.
Like, what do you do when you turn on the TV and you're watching something brand new? I'm automatically go to critiquing hair and makeup
Oh,
and
forget
style.
it. I can't
Not
watch
only
anything.
Exactly. Not only is it because of my background,
Yes.
but also because it's been so instilled in me that it's like, oh, like I need to look like her. Like for the longest time, I was obsessed looking like Ashley Graham. I don't know if you know who that is.
Yeah, I love her.
First of all, she fine.
She's fine.
And so it's
And
just
she
like,
know it. Okay.
mhm,
Yeah.
she does. And so like I realized I was like, you can still be healthy and not be some flaquita or stick figure, whatever you want to call it. Like, it's just not possible. It's
Well,
not
isn't it
possible.
just interesting too as a society, you know, because I think everybody does it, but as women, I don't know if men do this too because I'm not a man, but as women, like you automatically compare yourself to whatever you're seeing. It's not even something you're aware of. You're just like, "Oh, this person does this. Oh, I don't have that." Or they have this or, "Oh, I'm
I think
better
for
in this way," or whatever. You know what I mean?
yes, I think for men it's more materialistic things
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that
because
like, can I provide? Am I doing this? Am
yeah,
I doing that? Yeah,
it's
yeah,
instilled. I think it's just instilled in us,
yeah.
like in our insides of like that purpose.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that you have to do what everybody else is doing,
Right.
but
Well, I
that
think we're
passion
starting to
in
get
there to
away
be
from that.
correct.
Mm,
But like as far as like with women and what I've seen, like for example, 2 years ago when I started this journey, I started it with a group of girls that I was working with at the time. And everyone brought a piece of item that they wanted to fit into again.
oh, wow.
I don't have anything like that.
Right.
I never would go clothing shopping. I
Mhm.
didn't like uh, I didn't like how I looked in things. And so I had to to go buy something So then I'm like sitting in this circle and like everyone's like telling their story. And and then at that moment I realized I was like, no, I've never been skinny. Like I don't know what it's like to be skinny.
Right.
I've always been overweight. And so I had to buy an item. And the past 2 years I've been working on fitting in my shirt and I finally did. I mean, it was
Congratulations.
thank you. It was snug, but it was like I remember like even when I was talking to you, and I remember like when I first moved back here, I was like, yeah, I've lost like 40 pounds.
And that was
And
a big
and
deal.
I was
Like 40 pounds is
was
a
and I
lot of
was like
weight.
not really thinking it was a big deal. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, like that's 10 pounds away from 50. That's like half of 100. Like what? That's a lot.
Yes. Yes.
And so now when I think about like where I'm at in like with the 100 pounds lost, it's like I think about how heavy that was.
Mm. And how does that, like, make you feel? Like, what are your thoughts that go along with that?
I just think about because like the past 10 years is really when, well, the previous 9 years prior to that was when I gained like my most dramatic amount of weight. It
Right.
was 100 pounds within that 8 years. And that was like the real eye opener because I I think at that point I just realized like you're just continuing to do everything for everyone else and not yourself. And where you want to be when you're 50 years old and being able to like walk around, or when you're 70, like I want to be able to be comfortable. It's not, to me it's not about losing weight anymore. It's about wanting to be comfortable and being able to like go into a restaurant and not having to freak out if the waiter says, oh, you have to sit in this booth table and my
Right.
can't even fit.
Right.
So it's all psychological because
Yes.
even though I've lost all that weight, I look in the mirror and I still see myself that heavy.
Right. You can't even really see the changes. What are some practices that, like, are you working on that? Like, are there some practices that are helping you get to that next point and, like, understand the changes that you're going through? If that makes sense?
Yes. Yeah. It's been a process because it's new habits that I've had to create.
Mm,
And so when I sometimes I don't notice when I'm picking up on an old habit because they're still there.
yeah.
It's more on like controlling them now and trying to turn them into something else. I think it's really funny you told me not to burp and I feel like I have to.
You can burp if you need to.
No, it's
I'll
not.
edit it out.
No, I just think that's funny. Like I feel it like happening. I'm like, please don't come out right now.
That's why sometimes, like, I wanna drink a seltzer when I'm doing these, but I'm like, "Yo, I'll totally burp."
I think we
Like,
should
loud.
have a burpathon.
Well, now you need to burp. Go ahead, do it.
No, I don't.
Your hidden talent.
Shut up. That's not.
It's not hidden anymore.
I'm not doing it right now. Maybe
Alright,
like
don't do it, but, it's impressive because I can't burp on command.
I appreciate you letting me know this. And that's also one thing too is like being overweight and doing certain things. Like I feel like everybody looks at me and
Mm.
is like just grossed out.
Oh, interesting. You feel like their judgment and the stigma.
Oh yeah. Like remember when not long like years ago when you would be like, you never really eat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like eating in front of people because I feel like I'm eating like a big slob.
Right. Right. I would always say that because I was like, "I eat like
Yeah.
6 times more than you. What the hell's going on, friend?" Like, "This isn't
And
normal."
that's the thing though, is like
But that's like it's
that's my
also
body.
okay, bigger picture. You love to cook. You're a fantastic cook. You love to bake. You're a fantastic baker, and it's almost like you're kinda snuffing that part of yourself out and dimming your light because you're afraid of these judgments from other people who, in the grand
Correct.
scheme of things, don't even matter. They literally have no 0 impact on your life.
They don't. And that's also one thing that I realized is food is not bad.
Correct.
There are foods that are bad for you, of course.
Right.
But
Or, like,
like
too much of them are
when you
bad.
know what your body should and shouldn't have,
Mm,
then you're able to like kind of tell yourself, okay, okay, this is what I'm trying to say. One thing that I did was I did not hold back on the things that I enjoy eating
Smart.
during these past 2 years, because that's one thing that I noticed is like it's not so much about what you're eating, it's how much you're eating of all the different things.
Mhm.
So for example, if I know that like I'm gonna have pizza for dinner, well then I'm not gonna have like a lot of bread or something during lunch. I'll have something different because I'm gonna treat myself to pizza tonight because yeah, I want pizza. And
I
guess
like
what?
pizza, it's delicious.
I was still able to lose weight.
Yeah.
It wasn't because I'm not eating properly and I'm eating all these things that for all these years everyone's always saying, "Oh, that's not good for you. That's not good for you. Like that's going to make you get fat."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "No, that's not how it works anymore. Like it's how much you eat it, how often do you eat it, and in what I'm like quantity."
Right.
Like and
And also,
also is like
have you been playing around with just like your mentality about food? Like, I would notice that if I, in my head, I'm like, oh, pizza's so bad and I'm going to eat pizza. And then I would like create this whole story about the pizza. And it's like, you're literally just like making it worse for you. You're like telling your body that this food is bad and this food's going to make me fat.
no, I did the opposite.
You did the opposite.
I told yeah, I
Right. So
told
you're
myself
saying that like you were like you recognized that that was not a positive way, a positive
correct.
relationship to have with your food. Okay. All
Mhm.
right. Perfect.
I what I did was like, yeah, this is gonna make me gain weight, but it's okay because I know what to do to get it off.
Right.
Um, and it can even come off without me having to work out. Like I can
Yep.
just eat certain foods and that'll just coincide with it. Like there's so much stuff that is involved with it, but like I told you, like at the end of the day, when it came to like my emotional and mental, like I couldn't even eat
Hmm.
if my body wasn't allowing. I had no appetite
Yeah.
because I just hated myself so much, and I thought that food was the enemy. Like can't
Hmm.
eat anything, but then I would go eat, and that was like that process. And so that's why I had to change that mentality. And I remember we were talking about like triggers and stuff too, and
Hmm.
just taking my thing has been taking those fears and turning them into positives. So like for example, if I want to have chocolate, like if you go into my room right now, I have the big family size bag of peanut M&Ms,
Hmm.
and they last me for like a month
Right.
because I just have like a few every day because I love chocolate and I'm not going to not have chocolate.
There you go.
Exactly. But I will
But that's so
say
important
you
because
have part of that in it too.
I did.
Yeah,
How?
because you love to eat. And I think like with you and I, like we love eating together, and
Yes,
when
we love
we
to
eat
cook.
together, we're really good about making the food taste so good.
Hmm.
And you'd think that it had all these bad ingredients in it and everything, but it's not. And so when you are able to change your taste buds and realize, like, hey, there's some actually good stuff out there. You just gotta, take the time.
Yeah.
Then you're fine.
Yeah, and we always made it fun and made it like an experience and also like it was like a way for us to be creative. But in human design, we're both kitchen environment, right? So that for us
No,
was like it was
I'm a big
about the
kitchen.
creation of it, like creating something that was different and fun and exciting and then like the act of eating it was also just a whole experience,
Yeah.
like taco night is it's a vibe, okay?
They're epic.
They're epic.
I think this just made popped in my head was with the whole mental and emotional side of it,
Mm,
it's days upon days being talked to about your body.
mm,
And this is like from strangers. I'm talking about like your family, friends, strangers. Um, and so like when you're constantly being talked to about that, it's constantly being drilled in your head. And that was like always my priority.
Right.
And it was just like really heartbreaking because like you don't have any space in your mind. Like I would literally like just spend so much time like just dwelling in my sorrow of being overweight instead of like actually doing something about it. But that's my goal, is to try to change that conversation,
Mm,
because all the things that I've done with all these diet plans and weight loss things that I've gone to, like nobody really takes the time to try to talk to you about the emotional and mental side of it. Because yeah, I can start adding exercise and changing my diet, but that's not going to change really how I'm feeling inside. Like the cycle is going to come back. A trigger is going to come back and it's going to make me fall off the wagon and go back to my old ways. And how do I prevent that?
how have you
I
been
remember one,
preventing it? Oh,
huh?
sorry, don't I
Oh
didn't
no,
mean
I
to cut
was
you
going
off.
to say,
Go
I
ahead.
remember one time someone told me that um, when you lose weight, you still have like the fat girl or fat guy mentality.
Mm,
And so like that's what I'm trying to face now, is because like how I said, like when I look in the mirror, I still see how I was 100 pounds heavier.
right.
And like when I look at, like I love showing my picture now to people and they're like, that's not you. I'm like, that's me. Like I know that's me.
You're
I
like,
go and
"Trust me."
and then I go, listen, like I still feel like that. Like I
Yeah,
still think I look like that. They're like, no, you don't. Like even 2 sizes down, like all these things. And
yeah,
like now even the battle is I have so much muscle gain.
right.
Like just I just this it's just this belly is so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. I tell I tell my fiance all the time, I was like, I just want to cut it off. I just like it
And
really, you could just
it
slice it
might
off.
come to that one day that that's, the path you have to take, like just getting that
I'm
extra skin
terrified of
in.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
What scares you about
I'm
it? Just the
the
process?
recovery.
The recovery, yeah.
Another thing. Oh, this is another thing. Like for the longest time, I wouldn't even go to the doctor.
Yeah,
So self-conscious of having to see someone my body, have someone see my body.
of course. Of course.
And then when I talk to women, other women, and I could talk like even to you,
Mhm.
like all these women that I think are like goddesses, they're gorgeous. Everyone's self-conscious.
Newsflash.
Everyone. And then the best part too is like, okay, so oh, the puppies. So another thing too is like, well, wait a minute. I've had men who want to be with me intimately, relationship wise. I've been married and now I'm getting married again.
Mhm.
And that doesn't really go into society's views for overweight women.
Yep.
And then I also love when people call me fat still to this day. And now I just laugh because
Because
I'm
you're
just
like, "Girl, you don't
yeah,
even know."
yeah, I don't even know. And now I love eating food. I just
Yeah.
don't care. Like I talk about eating food. I order whatever I want and
Yep.
I just don't care.
And you enjoy it. And that's the other thing, like, you're enjoying the food you're eating. You're eating it without the judgment towards the food that, "Oh,
Correct.
this food is bad," or "This food
Yes,
makes me bad,"
correct.
you
And that
know?
actually just reminded me of what I was wanting to say earlier, was like through my process of like losing this weight the past couple of years,
Mhm.
I've been like writing my story.
Mm,
It's like I
I
wrote
love
about my
that.
past and like my current journey too. And like all these recipes that I've created. And like it always seems like the conversation happens a lot when people are eating or at the table. And so like that was like my goal, is like, you know what, like I want to turn this into something and really make it, because for me, like especially with children nowadays, like there really aren't not a lot of healthy options.
No.
And everything is like processed. There's not a lot of natural food opportunity. And I'm talking about like in a lot of different communities. And so I think like it would just be really nice to be able to have like some kind of support out there.
Yeah,
And that's something that like I'm kind of working on right now
I love that.
because
And I
I want to
think,
like do like a cookbook or something.
yeah. Or I think just ideas of, if you do have a child that is self-conscious about their weight or is self-conscious about their body, it's like talking about it and discussing it in a way that's not, I don't know, like giving the food all the power, right? Because from your story of when you were young, it was like food held all this power. Like you were emotionally eating, you were, turning to food instead of maybe expressing what you were feeling emotionally, or you didn't have that safe space to talk about what you were feeling. So you were coping in whatever way you could cope.
It You have to think of it like a drug.
Mm-hmm.
That was my outlet.
Yeah.
Like I was going to that like, and it wasn't even so much like the food itself, it was more so like the habit as well.
Yeah.
And like even to this day, like comments are made about like jokes of when I was a kid and like
Right.
things I eat in order or whatever. And it's like,
So everybody
okay.
recognized it.
Oh, totally. And I just love talking about it now. It's like, yeah, you're right. I go, well, why didn't you order me something else?
Right.
Like, and like it's also interesting of how like the parents will play a role in like not try to take um I don't want to use the word blame because I don't really think it's blame because to me parents are busy, and especially if you have more than one child, like
Mm,
trying to handle all those it's not just four different lives you're taking care of, it's four different lifestyles
yeah.
on top of your own, on top of whatever else you do, if you have a spouse or partner whatever.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot to handle. And it was a lot on my mom because my dad traveled a lot. And
Mm-hmm.
so like there would be conversation of even blame being put on her.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, like I'm able to have that conversation and say, like, no, I remember what it was like as a child. This is what I experienced. And after all these things that I've done research on and talked to other people about, like it is something that started then, but it's my turn now to take control over it. It's not your fault anymore. Like I'm where I
Mm,
am now because I put myself here.
right. Right. What would be your advice to parents who, are maybe dealing with a child who is showing this similar, traits of being a little overweight and, they tend to go towards the food more so than anything else?
Oh, well, first, don't have it in the house
Mm.
and make meal prep
Hmm.
family.
Oh, I like that.
Um, um, I don't want to say a family event,
But give them
like
some
a
like
family.
right,
Yeah,
give them some choice, like maybe these are your three options. What would you like from those? Or like, make it food that they enjoy,
I
right?
think it's also important, like explaining the why,
Mm,
um, because how many times have you heard someone say they were the healthiest person ever and I can't believe they just had a heart attack?
right.
Because it just there's so many, it doesn't matter, like there's so many different things with different people, like you have to do what's good for you, and
Mhm.
what's good for you and what's good for everybody else is good healthy food.
Right.
And so if you're taking the time to prep it versus doing like processed food, because like I'll use you for an example.
Mhm.
Let's just say you had a crazy day recording all day, the
Mhm.
kids are out of school now and you're exhausted, there's no meat defrosted from the freezer, like what are you going to do?
Right.
Pasta 3 days in a row?
Right.
Like guess what, when your kid gets older they're really probably not going to like pasta that much because they were had to eat it so much.
Yeah.
Like that's my mentality, and this is not me just speaking from my personal opinion. I'm speaking because I've had conversations with people about it. Like it's important to me to talk to people because I want to speak from like facts and experience.
Mhm.
So like yeah, like prepping food, like going to the grocery store, showing them like this is why we can't get it. Do you see how much sugar is here? Like now look at the ingredients. What's added in it?
Right.
If the stuff is added, like you should be teaching them those things. And then even at home, like if you don't know how to cook, throw a YouTube video on.
Yeah.
There's so
There's
many,
so many resources
even
now.
kids have their own YouTube videos. Like set it up for the kid and be like, "Hey, have at it.
Yeah.
Let's see
Yeah.
what you do."
Right.
Like I think it would definitely be something that would totally be even like in school lunches. Like you're really going to tell me you can't find a healthier option?
Right.
I just think that's ridiculous.
I know. I know. And it's interesting. And it's, it's going back to like what you were saying about the pizza. It's not to say that they can never have a treat, right? I mean, we kind of implement this in our own house. Like, we don't have to buy the sugary snacks and whatever. They're going to have that. They're going to get it in other places. You're going to go out and
Correct.
they're going to want a treat and whatever. But it's like the home
Mhm.
base, what's at home, the easy to access foods are the fruits and the veggies. They're already pre-sliced. They have a dipping sauce that they like because if it's easy access for them, that's what they're going to grab.
Yeah.
Just letting them know, hey, here are where all your snacks are. And it's like, as a mom and dad, you get to pre-approve what is going in the fridge, what's going in the cabinet. So this way, they have access to those things. And it's not like you're going to
Mhm.
say, no, we can't have dessert. Sure, we can have dessert. But you have a small portion of your dessert and it comes, when you eat all the other healthy things before that. So that's a really good point. And I like that suggestion of making it like a family, everybody has
Definitely.
an input.
And then another thing, and this is for anyone too, is um when you're eating, you have to learn how to not eat with your mind and eat with your stomach.
Ooh, with your body. Yeah, that's a
Because
good one.
yeah, because like and I've done this with a lot of people, like because
Mhm.
with me, if you've asked me for advice, then that's an open door that if I see you not following through on that advice, I'm gonna like say, hey, like you're feeling that way because you're not doing this, like you should really try it. So like one of the things I like to do is with the mind over belly, right?
Mhm.
So when you take a bite, like bite it, eat it, swallow, wait a moment,
Mm,
then eat another bite because you're having to retrain your body. And with kids, they don't understand that.
right.
They just want to eat because that's like they're not only growing, but it's also like, okay, but what are you giving to them? What are they growing on?
Right. Right.
So, like, just knowing like you're taking the time to eat and then saying, okay, I just finished my plate. I always go for seconds and I want seconds.
Mm,
Is your stomach telling you that or is your mind telling you that? So,
right.
one thing I'm always like, is your stomach growling? Like, do you feel like there's actual room in there or do you feel like okay right
Full.
now?
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, okay, wait like 10 minutes,
Yeah.
see how you're feeling. And if you're still hungry, go ahead and eat.
Yeah. That's a good point. I know for myself, like growing up, it was always like, finish your food. You can't get up till your plate is clean. Like, da da da. And that kind of it caused me to lose weight as an adult because you'd go out to eat, right? You go to somebody's house and they put this plate of food on and it's maybe twice the size of a plate that you would plate yourself and you eat the whole thing because you're like, oh, I have to. And then like I would be at somebody's house and they would refill my plate and I didn't want to be rude, so then I would eat the second plate. It's like, oh my god.
And then on me, on the other hand, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been to third world country. I know what people have to do to suffer. Like this cannot go to waste.
Right, right, and that was, like, that whole, like, mentality, so it was so
Hmm.
interesting, because I definitely noticed that with myself, and it was
Well,
something that I had to, like, be like, "It's okay to, like, not eat all the food on your plate."
and it's also okay to not eat all the food in the pans because
Right,
guess what? There's
in the
enough for you to
refrigerator.
have for next tomorrow.
Right,
Like that was the point.
yeah, we
It's
even
not don't
stopped,
finish
like
it.
yeah, we stopped putting all the food, like, on the table. And we, like, leave it on the stove because even just, like, that simple act of having to stand up and walk across the kitchen to refill your plate, like, it kinda cut down on the
It's like, oh,
overeating.
I don't want to do it.
Yeah, like, "Oh, I'm kinda lazy to walk up," because then you're like, "Oh, wait, I am kinda full," whereas if it's in front of you, we're like, "Oh, it's right there, I'll just eat a little bit more because it was so good."
I've never thought of it that way because usually when the food's on the table with me, it's like a lot of people.
Yeah.
and like family style.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which I do
but
love family style. So it's like sometimes we'll do it. Tacos, it's like it's all out because
those
it's like
things
too
are
many
to me
little
are
things.
just like, yeah.
Yeah.
Because then I leave it out and I'm like, all right, in 20 minutes, I'm going to want another taco. Taco and pizza and chocolate.
That's my best
But
life.
like, the thing that just popped in my head is when being overweight is used as a disability.
Mm, okay.
Um, I think like a lot of people have opinions on that. I've had my opinions on it. For example, if I see an overweight person and they have a handicap sign, I'm like, well, dang, like, why? Like that, this was my mentality long ago. But now, like where I'm at today, I'm like, everybody has their own story. And like with me, it's been a huge struggle to lose weight, even like the past 2 years, because I have PCOS, which is a medical condition
Hmm.
which prevents my insulin, or it's insulin resistant a lot. And so it causes me to have like that belly fat
Right.
and a harder time for me to lose weight.
Yeah. It's
I
a
didn't know
hormonal
that 10.
imbalance, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's a hormonal imbalance. So I didn't I didn't know that 10 years ago. If I had known that 10 years ago, I feel like my mentality would have changed and I would have been like, you know what? Like I'm overweight not because I just eat a lot or I'm lazy and I just don't do anything. I'm overweight because I have a medical condition. How can I tackle it so that I know what to do to lose the weight? Because actually that's what's been preventing me from losing weight. When
Right.
in reality it had a part on it, but because of that, it made it like 10 times worse because you just beat yourself up over it. Like you don't want to leave the house, you think you're going to get stared at, like it's just really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So then I imagine like all of these people who are like overweight, like 600 pounds, and how did they get to that point? Because they didn't have that breaking point of like, oh no, like I need to stop. Like it's always mentally. And if you go talk to overweight people, like they'll tell you themselves,
Yeah.
no, I don't like being overweight, but it's actually really hard.
Yeah.
It's
And
really hard to lose weight.
yeah, and I think you're just touching on it so much with talking about the mental and emotional side of it because that's not something, like we have the science of it, right? That's like, okay, well, eat this many calories, exercise this many times for however long, but you're not talking about the fears that are coming up. You're not talking about the patterns and the habits.
Mhm.
And even beyond that, like, why are those patterns and habits there? Right?
Yeah,
Like you were talking about, like looking back at your childhood, and it's like, okay, this pattern was formed here. Why was this pattern formed? Okay, let me go and heal that pattern and that habit
yeah,
in order to move on to your next step.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So you're so good at just taking my words and simplifying them.
Thanks.
Me a hot mess when I talk sometimes.
It
But
all
yeah,
comes
it's
out, but
just
I hear you.
like I see like even now I see some kids of people that I know,
Mm,
and like I can tell like some of them are starting to like pick on that weight.
yeah.
And I think like especially with this past year with COVID, like it's just been really difficult and it's taken a huge toll on people
Mhm.
emotionally and mentally. So like to kind of break out of that habit as well, it's difficult. And how do you tell a child that, hey, you're starting to get overweight, like you need to calm down. We
But
need to
that's
do
also not really helpful,
it's
because
not.
the kid doesn't understand that
They
language.
don't understand it. So what's the language that you use? Just be like, listen, we need to start doing this. And you don't even have to explain to them why, really,
Right.
because in my own perspective, viewing it, and especially like I've had that conversation with someone once with a kid, and I've seen other people have conversations with children, and they don't understand that. And
Yeah.
it can be very emotional for them too.
And
And
it can be
then
very, like, damaging because it's like they don't understand kids are naturally active. So being like, "Oh, you need to work out to lose weight," like, what? No, they're exercising because it's fun. It's fun for them to run. It's fun for them to jump on the trampoline or do whatever it is they do.
like
And
for
even
me,
like
it was fun to dance.
Right,
And then
it's
I
fun
was
to
taken out of
dance.
it. Yeah, I was taken out of it, and I didn't have another outlet, and I was starting to gain that weight.
Yeah,
But here's another thing. During my childhood, I didn't really have any friends. I
right.
lived in a neighborhood where it was all boys,
Mhm.
and so my brothers would play with each other, and they would go play with their friends.
Right,
And then all of my friends, like from school that I had, were on the far, far, far side. And then I had my mom who was like full time working and in school, and then my dad who was working and traveling. So who was I with? My
right.
brothers, or I would go to my grandmother's house with my aunt. When you go to your grandmother's house, you just
Forget it.
are
Forget
you
it.
kidding me? I used to hide in the bathroom with Nutella.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not saying I don't do that now. I don't have to hide it. I just,
You eat your Nutella whenever you want, baby.
exactly. Don't touch my Nutella. But yeah, and so it breaks my heart sometimes, like just seeing that, because nobody wants to be told how to parent.
Yeah, yeah,
And at the same time, it's like, listen, like, it's not even so much about parenting. It's about trying to set up your child to have a healthier lifestyle so that they feel good about themselves and they have energy and they can concentrate on more important things.
yeah,
Because imagine if you have that lifestyle, you're raised into that, and it's not only at home, it's in school, and that way when you become an adult, like, you're able to just be free on that, and
right,
you don't have to worry
right,
and concentrate spending all these years thinking of, like, oh, how do I look because of society's view.
right. Or not feeling comfortable. There was just an article. It was a man too, Jonah Hill, maybe. And
Hmm.
like, yeah. And I
I
was
love
like,
that article.
I love that article because I was like, yeah, like leave him alone. Like, leave
Mhm.
him alone. How sad to think as a boy, like didn't feel comfortable to take your t-shirt off to go swimming.
Yeah,
Like, come
I
on.
refused in gym class in high school.
Oh,
I
yeah.
got a doctor's note
Good.
because I refused to have a bathing suit in front of everyone and be made fun of.
Yeah.
Oh, you have to follow the rules. Okay, well, they need to follow the guidelines on how to be nice to me. I didn't
Maybe
really say
the
that.
maybe the rules suck. Maybe
I
we need
was
new rules.
Listen, I know you know how I am now
Yes,
and how I was in like hairdressing school and everything, but like when I was a kid, I really wasn't like that. I was really quiet.
me too.
I didn't like getting into trouble. Like
Nope.
I didn't want to
So
be bothered.
shy.
I want to
Yeah.
be noticed.
Yep.
And now I'm just like, well, okay, stop noticing me.
I dare you. I dare you to try.
One time, this just is like, want to hear some fat jokes?
No.
Why?
I'm teasing. Go ahead.
Fat joke. I will say this. You know what fat jokes are really funny? Mom fat jokes. Come on.
Why you gotta hate on the moms? It's hard
I'm
over
not
here.
on the mom, but like fat jokes with like mom jokes, those are funny.
I know my kids are kind of getting to the age where they're like, those yo mama jokes or the you're
Yeah.
so fat jokes. And I'm like, I don't like that. It
Oh
does
yeah.
because I just doesn't feel nice to me. And I'm like, is it really a joke? That's been the conversation. Is it really a joke if it's at the expense of somebody else? Like, is that other person you're joking about laughing? And if they are, like, are they laughing because they're just trying to like blow it over and they don't want to bring more attention to themselves? Like, I just don't think it anything good comes of it. I'm like, if you want to
I
be
think it's
funny, but
more so like
do
if
it.
it's like if there's an understanding of what jokes are, that's one thing.
Yeah,
But like for me, within family and friends, like those jokes are just common.
right. But
But
I
like
just
I
think
know,
like
like
we
with you,
never know
you've never joked with me about my weight. Like
because
you've
it's
joked maybe about like my boobs or something, but like I would tease you when like you were pregnant with your daughter because
my hips didn't lie. They still
no,
don't
no,
lie. Let's
no, don't lie.
let's be real.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
Mhm.
but I'm like, I think I completely understand your point of view though, and I agree with it. You just have to be careful. But
I
I
just
think that's
think
like
we
with
never know what other people are dealing with, right? Like, you
okay,
don't
but
know
here's
if
my thing,
somebody's, like,
Fiona.
dealing, with, like they're considering, like, harming themselves because, say, they're gay, and now you're cracking a gay joke not knowing they're gay and not knowing that they really like, it's really something that they're struggling with.
Mhm.
And you're trying to be innocent and, like, make a joke, but, like, to them, it's not a joke, it's hurtful.
Well,
That's the
I
bottom
think
line.
that's when it comes to reading the room though.
Yeah.
Because let me put it this way. If it's in a friend group or family group, you know what jokes can and cannot be said. If you won't say it in front of the person that you're saying it about, then yeah, don't say it at all.
Yeah.
Mind you, if I'm talking like to you and I and we're cracking jokes on someone, well, you better believe I'm going to crack the jokes with them too, but I already have. Like,
Right.
that's just how we are.
Right.
But at the same time, like, think about like comedians. Comedians get paid to crack jokes at people and
Yeah.
talk so much crap. But then when you change the title,
Right.
politician.
Right now it's
Politician
inappropriate.
now makes the same comments, but it's done in a different way, and it's not funny anymore
Right.
because it's a different title.
Right.
So that's like what I was saying. Like you have to read the room because there's never not going to come a time when your mind is going to think it, or you might say it, or you might not say it. But in your mind, you're probably going to think because all these things are always talked about now. Like every negative thing that could come up has to be discussed, and it has to be discussed for hours upon hours upon hours. I feel like it's like a soap opera. Like in 2 weeks I'll go back, it's the same thing. Like there's no new information for me. So
Mm.
yeah, in 2 weeks, guess what? I'm still gonna be fat, but I'm not gonna be as fat as I was.
Okay, so what decides, like, how do you decide when you're skinny or when you're thin or when you're healthy, or are we choosing different words?
Well, I'm using those words because those are the words that are used in our language.
Do you agree with those words? Do you want to
Yes.
change them?
No.
Okay.
I I think fat is not negative or positive.
Mm,
It's it's just a
it's
way
just a
of
word.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like for example, if I was to go out and call someone gay or, other derogatory names, like that's totally different. But to me, like fat is not derogatory to me. Like if you call me like a fat bee or something, we'd be like, okay, well, now we got problem. Not really though. I get that a lot, especially when I'm driving.
Mm. Okay, let me ask you this.
Okay,
Have
yeah,
you
ask me
set
questions.
have you set, like, a goal, like a weight goal, or, like, what's your, like, driving force? Like, what are you trying to get to?
260.
Okay. Why that number? Where'd that number come from?
That's the last number I remember that I actually liked how I looked and felt.
Okay.
And that was, I would probably say maybe when I was in hairdressing school. But I didn't like how I looked like style wise. Like I'm talking more like with my body. Like
Yeah.
when I look back at pictures and stuff and I think about like my body, how it's transitioned, I felt that my body at that time, but it was also I was younger at the time, of
Mhm.
course. So, but like at that time, like I just remember like I really liked how I felt and my body looked
Mhm. Yeah, but you
for
probably
some
still were
reason.
wearing, like, super baggy clothes or just, like, not wearing clothes that you felt good in.
Yes, because um so like for me now with how I live my lifestyle,
Mhm.
it's I'm comfortable with my inside.
Yeah,
Like I'm
you
healthy.
are. Yeah.
I don't have high blood pressure, like all those things that coincide with being overweight. I don't have.
Right.
And I'm trying to prevent from getting that, right? And so that's why I started like so serious too, because like I don't want to be stuck. I don't want to have diabetes and all these things because that's going to be even worse. Like I don't want to have to live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
I see how people live that lifestyle, and they're a lot of them are not happy and they're not comfortable with it.
Mhm.
Mind you, when I say people living that lifestyle, I'm talking about people who are overweight and have diabetes.
Right.
Okay. But did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I think I lost.
Well, you were talking about your
Okay.
goal and why that's
Oh
your
yeah.
goal.
Okay. So yeah, so 260, I just feel like that for some reason, and especially with my height too, like I've done the research and everything. So like around 260 is gonna be like prime weight for me. Like that's my goal weight I want to get to.
Mhm.
Once I hit that goal, then I don't know what I'm gonna do, but I don't know.
Reevaluate at that point. That's okay.
Yeah.
You can,
I don't
you're
know. I haven't really
everything's
thought about
substance.
it. I feel like I don't know if I'll lose more, do whatever, but like even like earlier how you were saying like when I was saying I just want to cut my belly off, like when I think about having to do all that and like that what comes after, like even that part to me is like it's been also instilled like you're extremely lazy if
Mhm.
you go the
Right.
surgery route.
Right.
But I think it's based on everyone.
Yeah.
It's based on everyone because like if someone's not able to do it certain things, like if we have these procedures now created to help people out and they can afford it, well, what's the difference between doing that versus someone who goes and gets plastic surgery?
Right.
Like you're just fixing yourself to look how you want to look.
Right. It could be argued that like being on a diet or exercising essentially it's for
Yeah.
the same reason. It's like for a vanity reason, right?
Hmm. And for me, for my reason more so was because I knew I was eventually going to meet someone,
Mm.
and I wanted to be able to have the highest possibility of like being able to start a family because with PCOS as well, and even on top of that being overweight, like and having to get pregnant is going to be a challenge, but then in my mind I'm like, okay, if I get pregnant, my lifestyle during not only during my pregnancy but prior to that is potentially going to be instilled in that human growing in me.
Mm.
And so when that child comes out, like I don't want them to be unhealthy. Like I want to do whatever I can to make sure that it's a stress-free healthy pregnancy so that they are able to like really develop when they are born.
Yeah.
So like that was like another thing of like really pushing me because yes, it was doing it for someone else at
Mhm.
that point, but at the end of the day, it was still doing it for me because I want to be able to provide and have that time with my children and not have to worry about just dropping dead or like being out of air,
Right.
out of breath, just like playing with them or something. Like that's what would happen to me, like going up the stairs. I would not want to go up the stairs. Like it's a lot of different things that would happen. You just torture yourself.
Mhm. Mhm. I like that. I like that answer. It's a good one. It's a good one because it's sustainable and it's, something that's like coming from your true heart, right? It's your actual truth. It's not just like you were saying when you were younger and it was like, "Oh, well, I want to lose weight for this person or this outside thing is telling me to lose weight." But now it's like you have a goal of feeling a certain way, of feeling healthier, of being able to create life, of being able to sustain that life and make sure that that child that you're bringing into this world has, the best possible starting point. And I really
Yes.
like that. That's really healthy, and I think it's the reason why you've been able to maintain this weight loss and to continue losing weight at the rate that you have been because it's so realistic and you're doing the work. You're diving
Yeah.
deep.
And it's really hard to be consistent. And I'm not like, that's one thing I will say for me this time. Like, I haven't fallen off of what I've been doing
Mhm.
because I just changed my lifestyle to fit those things in. Like, and those are things that I enjoy doing. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna, I don't go to the, like, I used to think it was crazy for people who would want to go running. Like, what? You enjoy running? And then you saw last year me on Bermuda, in Bermuda
Yeah.
on the beach running with
Yeah.
John. Like, here I go. Sure, why not? Let's just run. And I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
I don't care because here's my thing too is like if someone is watching me carrying all this weight running and I'm not running for fun, like I'm running because I just FYI, I actually like running now. It's really
See?
weird.
Who are you? What happened to
But
my friend?
because it's like it feels very it's not so stressful.
Mm,
Like it feels I feel free when I'm doing it. Like I like it more than walking sometimes, but like it's just it's I don't know how to explain it. But like I've just like what I was saying, I've just like I've added the things that I like to do. I had the time to do it. Um
well, I remember when you were first, you know, in the beginnings of this journey when you were about like your 40 pounds, you would come and spend the weekend with us and you would put your headphones on and you'd go out in the yard and you would just dance, with the music and you'd be singing and dancing
oh
right
yeah.
in the front yard.
Yes.
You didn't care who drove by. You're like, I'm here. We're dancing. And it was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And it was like that was your way to be active. And it was like doing something that you enjoyed and that was fun for you made
Mm-hmm.
it sustainable. It made it possible to continue doing it. Like if you sign up for
Yes.
something you hate, what are the chances you're going to do it? It feels like punishment, doesn't feel like a reward.
No. And like remember like even like when we did the group workout that one time,
Yeah.
I was a nervous wreck
Yeah.
because it's other people watching you and
Mhm.
other people you think are going to be judging you on how you're doing it,
Right.
if you're going to get through it all, and all these things. And then it's just like, I just don't care anymore. Like, if my body is telling me not to do it, I'm not going to do it
That's
because
it.
it's not ready yet. So,
Yep.
my body was telling me a long time ago, you're not ready to run. Like,
Right.
no. Now it's telling me, like, I'll be driving, like, man, I really want to go running.
Yeah. Who am I?
Who does that? But yeah, like, it's just, and the another thing too is like consistency.
Mhm.
Like I think that's those number two fears is just letting go of the fear of being judged on all different levels
Mhm.
and just be consistent
Yeah.
because you're
Consistent being
still
what?
gonna get
Explain
people
that a little bit. Like,
with
what does
what
consistency look like for you?
consistency is following through with whatever I decide that I need to do that I know is going to work because it has been working.
Right. So
And
like meal planning, like you
correct.
still
Yeah.
consistently plan out your meal and you stick to whatever it is you planned for your meals.
No.
No. Okay.
And I'll explain why. When
Mm.
I first started doing everything, I had to be that consistent with it. I had to be that strict with I'm not consistent. I had to be that strict with it because it was me changing how I did things. So
Mm.
I had to
Okay.
force myself to eat at certain times. Or I had to like force myself to do exercises or dancing or whatever the case may be. Like I really had to put myself to force myself to do it. And then once I got into the habit of doing that, then I was like, okay, now how am I going to make it so that I can start doing the things I enjoy, but keeping that in there? And so I tested things out myself.
Mhm.
And if there was like, for example, like let's say 1 week went by and I ate certain things, I would notice how my body would react to it. So like if I eat pasta today, in a few days I'm gonna be swollen. Like I'm gonna look swole. Plump. And so like it's like those things like being consistent and paying attention.
Mm.
Because when you start adding those things back into your life, you're going to see what's good for you and what's not. You're also going to see what actually tastes good and what doesn't taste good to
Mm,
you anymore, because your taste buds change too, because your mind, your brain is not telling your body to eat those things anymore.
right.
Like,
Not even
it's
craving
still
them.
telling you to do it, but like, for example, if I go have like a sip of Coke, it doesn't taste good to me.
Right.
Like, it tastes like metal.
Yeah.
Or if I go have a cupcake, I won't even eat it.
Yeah.
I'm like one of those, okay, I'll take this birthday cake slice. And then I have like a bite of it. I'm like, no, this
Too
is just
sweet.
too
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
It's just so sweet. And then you have like the other stuff, which is like so like salty, or like really, like for a few weeks ago, we got mozzarella sticks
Mhm.
and I took a bite of it. All I could taste was the oil.
Right. You're just
All
like,
I could
"Oh."
taste was the oil. So it's like your body's gonna pick up on these things. Oh, but I do want to, to touch base back on what you were like saying with the whole Jonah Hill and everything.
Mhm.
That's been a very frustrating thing for me for the past few years, is with the amount of comments I've gotten of like, oh, you're beautiful, you look beautiful. Like, and I'm like, well, where was all this before? Like,
Yeah.
what? So I'm losing weight now, so now I'm beautiful. Like, but then I'm like, okay, I'm posting these pictures. Am I posting them for recognition,
Mm.
to show my progress and to make me feel good? Or am I posting them for them to understand, like, weight loss actually isn't about looking good, it's about feeling good, and you're overweight because you don't feel good. In reality, you look how you feel.
Wow. Yeah. It's a total cycle. You're so
It's a
right.
total cycle.
Yeah.
And so how do you change that?
Right.
It's different for everyone.
It is
And I
different for
think like
everyone.
that's like the thing too, is like people really need to understand, and that's like one lesson I would say I got from hairdressing school, was learning how to learn who a person is.
Mm.
Listen to them and learn who they are, because then you're going to understand what kind of relationship you're going to have. Mind you, of course, they're talking the relationship that you're going to have behind the chair, but that I implemented that in my real life,
Yeah.
because like at the time my father and I didn't really have a good relationship, and he's like my best friend, one of my best friends now. Like, I'm very close with him. Like, we can have those conversations and I can be open to him about all these things I'm talking about with you. I've had those conversations with him as well.
Right.
And like there's that understanding on that, because if people aren't talking about it, they're not going to know.
Yeah.
And nobody talks about how you're feeling prior to weight loss, why you want to lose weight, and when you're losing the weight. Because it's really, it to get that attention. And on top of that, when you're losing that weight, you're automatically going to start feeling good about yourself.
Right.
And so it's a huge battle when you have those comments coming at you, all that, you're getting all this positivity now and you're not used to it. And you're like, whoa, like, wait a minute. So now I'm worth positivity and I wasn't worth it before. And so like you had to battle with that too.
Yeah.
So it's just like overcoming like all of those feelings and all that trauma.
Yes.
And then realizing like, okay, well, this flabby bit's because of this or whatever, but
How do you think, you just sparked something in my brain because you're talking about like learning how to listen to other people and learning about other people, but like how did you learn about yourself? Like how did you learn the things? Have you always had a good relationship with yourself, or do you find that you kind of listen to what other people, like what they said of you? Does my question make sense?
yes, I would say both. I always have had the mindset to speak up.
Mhm. You don't
When I
say.
No, when I was younger, it was different because I always
Yeah.
was told like, you're not an adult, you can't say those things, you can't speak up. Like,
Right.
I would defend people, like who I would try to do that, and I was always being shut down,
Right.
because people don't want to hear how they mess up. People
Mhm.
don't want to hear their failures.
Mhm.
And when you're seeing people who have talked to you about that, that's a constant reminder. Like, and you could consider it a trigger if you want,
Mhm.
but like those are constant reminders. So you have to kind of take yourself out of that and not really, I don't want to say just like don't believe it, but like for me, it didn't start necessarily with my weight loss. It started prior to that at an old job I had because I realized that, and it's kind of funny that it coincided with this, but I realized like I don't care anymore. Like
Mm.
I don't care what other people think. I don't care what other people want from me, for me. It's not relevant. And it's
Right.
not relevant because it's been so instilled. And I think I don't know how it is in other countries, but like for here it's like it's very important how you look,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
it's very important how you portray yourself. And what was the word, the saying I used to be told? It starts with a C. Like people when they see you, convince. No, I forget the word, but basically like you're always being watched.
Right.
So I that point I was like, you know what? I'm always being watched. Everyone, everyone always has something to say. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be good, bad. It could be helpful, not helpful. But like, someone's always going to have an opinion, and I just need to stop caring about that. And so I stopped caring.
Right.
It took a while.
Yeah.
I became real sassy because I got tired of it. I'm like, no, I just don't care anymore.
Well, I think you have a really healthy concept of boundaries, and I think you're really good at implementing your boundaries and like staying firm with them. You're like, no, 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 this is what I said, and you're going to listen to it because this is what I'm telling you I will allow or not allow. And I think that for me as your friend, like that's always something that I admire of you. And I'm like, oh, well, Alessandra does this. And you know what? She does it in a nice, respectful way. Like you don't feel like you're you know, you don't feel offended that she said this, but I recognize like, oh, okay, she just set her boundary and like that's what she's comfortable with or not comfortable with. And it's like, I think that's kind of an important piece too to get to where you are now is like
Yeah.
sticking to what you say you're going to stick to and like just really being confident in yourself.
And to kind of go off of that too, it's a lot of it has to do with like I never thought of that about myself.
Mm,
Even like to this day, I think like when I speak out and I say things, like I think I'm the word I use now is rough
mm,
because, and it's very hard because in the household that I grew up with, and especially like my father and his side of the family, they're very passionate when they speak. And so a lot of times, like, you know what I'm talking about,
I know what
but
you're
a
talking
lot
about
of
because I've been
times,
there.
yeah, a lot of times it comes off as anger,
Mm,
um, but it's really not. So
right.
like for me, like if I'm repeating myself or something, even a lot of the times too, it's me like I'm so passionate about it because I'm passionate about it for whoever I'm talking to about it with.
Right.
Like I'm spending this time with you to talk to you because I actually care and I believe that you can do it or whatever the case may be. And so like that's why I talk to you that way.
Right.
And it's really funny because if I'm being nice to you, it's actually because like I'm actually like really upset
Mm,
because I don't want to come off of like, "Rrr."
right.
But
Too aggressive.
I'm just so passionate now of people speaking their truth and not being afraid and just going, just do it. Like
Right.
just do it.
Right.
If you don't do it, then guess what? You're always gonna be in fear.
Yeah.
And so like that's like the thing is like you gotta stop being afraid.
Yep. I love it.
I love it.
I love it.
Now I'm like my mind's racing. I'm just like, yeah. it's crazy. It's just it's like my body just is different and everything's just different. We're all just different.
We're
No.
all just but it's also just like part of your path, you know what I mean? It's part of what you are here to experience, you know,
Oh, for sure.
and
Like, and that's my thing too, is like I'd rather care too much than not care at all.
yeah, yeah. And I think we all have our things that we're passionate about and that we care about, you know what I mean? And it's just like whatever what's going to be right for you is not right for me and vice versa. So it's just like really getting to know yourself and
Mhm.
understanding like, okay, that's Alessandra's thing. Good for her. Like I'm going to support her how I can support her, but it's not really my thing. This is my thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Alessandra loves me. She's going to support me and you know, whatever. So
Yes.
I really truly feel that it all comes down to your relationship with yourself and how, you know, just getting to know yourself and understanding like kind of weeding through because we're told a lot of things. When we're young, we're told, "Oh, you're like this. Oh, you're like that. Oh, you're like this." And it's up to you to decide whether that's true for you or not.
Yep.
You know, like
I completely agree
mhm.
because it like growing up blah, 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 culturally
Yes.
with my family, we had Italian and then we also had Hispanic.
Yeah.
So it was like a lot, and you got a lot of good food in both of those. But like
Oh,
the
I know.
culture base of like, what a woman is supposed to do and who
Right.
she's supposed to be. What is she supposed to look like? Like, do you think I want someone telling me like, no, you're never gonna get married because of how you look?
Right. That's
And it's like
traumatizing.
it's very traumatizing. Never, you just grow up thinking like you're really not worth a lot,
Right. Or that all your worth is on whether or
and
not
then
you
you
get
settle.
married.
And then you settle because
That's
because
a whole other
you were raised, yeah, you were raised on all of these beliefs
Yes.
that you thought were supposed to be what you were supposed to be,
Yeah.
and then you're thrown out into the world and you learn, hey, you know what, there's a lot of different options out there. I don't really have to do what you're telling me to do.
Right.
And so like that's also why I'm saying like to it's important to instill and to teach people, learn who you're talking to. You can learn a lot within the first few minutes of who you're talking to. You'll be
Yeah.
able, you cannot tell me that you don't feel something inside when you're talking to someone and you feel off or on about it.
Yeah.
Like you just can't.
You feel in your body. Yep.
Exactly. Like
Mhm.
you just can't. And so it's just like you know what's good and not good for you.
And
If you know,
trust yourself. Trust that you know that. Don't quiet that
yes,
voice.
exactly, because I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't take the time to realize why I am where I am,
Yeah.
or who I am. Like relationships, careers,
Yep.
lifestyle, everything
All of
plays a
it.
huge role in all of that. And when you don't have time to take for yourself, like I had all the time in the world. I left a job purposely to just get away. My goal was not to lose weight. Like
Yeah.
that wasn't my goal. It was just to move.
Yeah.
And then one day I just started dancing and I was like, you know what? Like I have all this time in the world. If I don't lose weight right now, like people are going to look at me and be like, what are you doing with your life? And then I'm like, exactly, like, Alessandra, what are you doing with your life? And why are you not doing anything? And so I just started moving and I was like, well, wait a minute, like I could totally do this after being told I couldn't.
Right. After being told you couldn't.
Fiona,
Yeah.
I'll always remember when we were talking about your wedding in Mexico, and we were talking about like dancing and stuff, and I think John made some comment or whatever, and then I was just like, and you look about dancing like if I was gonna dance, you went like straight to like, um, Alessandra's always on the dance floor from the music starts until it ends.
And it's
I was
true.
like, yeah. Do you think people imagine the fat girl on the floor doing that? No.
And why? That's their own thing. It's not your responsibility to take on their, you know, view of what a fat girl is supposed to do or not supposed to do. No. Goodbye.
Are you scared to say fat girl?
I don't like the term fat girl, no.
Why?
I don't know. 'Cause I still have the idea in my mind that f the word fat is negative or that all the negative words that go along with it, that they're lazy or this or that, like, I don't like that. I know it's
Well,
not
look at we
true, but
say fat babies. Like, look at that fat baby. He's
fat
so
babies are so
chunky.
cute, yeah.
Yeah, what's wrong with it? Nothing. You know
Alright,
what?
you're
When
right,
people are like mean to me about it, then that's one thing. But I cannot get upset for someone calling me fat
right,
because guess what? What's the definition of fat in the dictionary? The definition fat doesn't describe a fat person.
right.
It's just a word that was created. But yeah, for me, like, I think it's just personal.
Yeah, and I think it's making me realize that that
Are you thinking of it in a negative way?
right, it's like my
Yeah.
mind and, like, the association I've made with it is a negative thing. So that's where
Yeah.
I need to do the work of like, okay, being fat is not a negative thing. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing.
Yes.
All right.
Because there you can be living a health you can be living and be overweight or obese. Like the word obese, that word triggers me.
Yeah.
Because when I hear the word obese, I'm like, I think death.
Right. Right. It's like
Like it's
very
just so it's
extreme.
just like such a powerful like word.
Yeah.
And so um but yeah, like I I just think it just depends on how it's being used.
Agreed. All right. I like it. I think this is a good place to wrap up. And I think
Okay.
you dropped a lot of nuggets. I think there's a lot for people to take away from this conversation. I learned a
Hope
lot.
so.
Yeah, and I think, you have a really beautiful way of just like you've been through it and you've experienced and you're just sharing your experience with like really helpful advice and guidance for other people who may be in the same boat. So I thank you for that.
My pleasure.
All right, if you guys enjoyed this chat, make sure to hit subscribe, turn on your post notifications, and comment on the video below to let us know what you think. We'll see you next time.